Looking at the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Eva was surprised and confused. Deprive the Creator in his love something so good to his creatures? Seeing her surprise, Satan asked, "Is how Yahweh said, 'Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden'?" Eva, restless, replied, "Of the fruit of the trees of the garden we eat, but the fruit of that tree that you claim to be a source of wisdom, God said, 'Ye shall not eat of it, lest ye die.'" The serpent tone of disdain said, "This is false. If so, I would have died. Surely the Eternal forbade them to eat from that tree to prevent the man will take as he, knowing all things." The seductive words of the serpent caused confusion in the minds of those who trust in Eve, had in mind the memory of the order of the Creator and his sentence, but at the same time had before it a tangible proof that the contradicted. Stunned, he began to doubt the character of the Eternal. In a challenge, the serpent harvested fruit from the forbidden tree and started to enjoy them. Putting a fruit in the hands of women, encouraged her to eat, saying, "Not the Eternal said that if someone touched that fruit would die." A complete silence hung over the universe. In each inhabited planet, the sons of light that stared helplessly agonizing seen, their future was they should respect the free will granted to man. He can manifest his choice under the temptation of the enemy. The children of light suffered greatly when they saw the woman doubting him who so kindly gave them life and the chance to reign in that paradise. How could they doubt who devoted so much love? Adam, a strong hope of securing a cherished victory, hastened to their race, watched his beloved from afar, sitting by the tree of proof. What did Eve that place so dangerous? A horrible feeling came upon him. He remembered once again the warnings received, but sought to banish it as thought that would reach his wife before something bad happened to him. Eva wavered in his conviction to include the fruit in their hands. For a few moments the future it seemed dark and terrifying, but overcame this feeling, thinking of the glories that would gain by eating this fruit. Still somewhat undecided, slowly raised his hands to touch the fruit of his lips. The subjects of the kingdom of light, shaken, bowed, taken by astonishment. It seemed almost impossible at that point the woman back. While the faithful Pale inquired about a possible hope, witnessed with horror the terrible decision to Eve, decided to break forever with the Creator, becoming captive to death. The Eternal, who gazed in silent pain, that scene of rebellion, bowed his forehead with his face bathed in tears, could not bear the pain of separation. The faithful, who panicked, thought themselves vanquished, were aware that all was not lost. If Adam resisted the temptation and remained faithful to the Eternal, he would seal the big win. Eva, who was the victim of a mistake, could be made aware of his mistake, being favored with heavenly forgiveness. When Adam in his agonizing race reached the place of trial, it was too late. Seated next to the river, Eva tasted the forbidden fruit carelessly. Adam shuddered. Was it really the fruit of proof? In a gesture of hope, looked at the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but tearfully acknowledged the sad conviction. Filled with grief, beheld his wife, but found no words to awaken it to so bitter reality. In complete desperation, raised his voice a painful exclamation, "Eva, Eva, what are you doing?" By eating the forbidden fruit, the woman was taken by emotions that did imagine having reached a higher sphere of life. Upon hearing the voice of her husband, also taken by illusory emotions, raised his brow, stamping a smile, but was surprised to see him crying. With deep sorrow, he sought to know the reason that led him to rebel against the Eternal. Eva promptly began to tell him the story of the wise serpent, Fantastic. Satan knew this story snake ever convinced the man to eat of the forbidden tree, needed to find a subtle way to get him to seal his fate in the footsteps of his wife. Having Eva under his power, decided to make her the object tempting. Await the opportune moment to ensnare him. On the day you eat thereof shall surely die. The memory of this sentence made Adam very distressed. The expectation of seeing his beloved perishing in his arms was too much to bear. This distress, however, was decreasing, to see that she was still happy and loving to his side, as if no harm had happened. Relieved, Adam smiled again, corresponding to the affections of his companion. He surrendered the sweetest emotions, far from knowing that the enemy who was involved in those hugs. In that moment of rapture, Eva began to tell him about his experience with the knowledge of good and evil. He told him of the treasures of wisdom that had been opened. In his new kingdom, live very happy. However, this happiness would be incomplete without the participation of your spouse. Told him of the impossibility of going back on their footsteps, and urged him to follow. After talking to him for his decision, Eva, with a sweet smile, held out his hands containing a fruit, asking him to eat in a demonstration of his love for her. With tempting voice in his ears, Adam sat on the lawn in deep thought. His face became pale again, his hands trembling. Feared rebel against the Creator, but at the same time understood that she could not live apart from his companion, whom he loved with infinite love. Eve was flesh of his flesh, the extension of his being. He was distressed at having to make a decision as serious. The paleness of Adam's face was reflected on the faces of all the faithful to the eternal. Heard the suggestion of the enemy, and realized with horror the vacillation of man. Indecision. Adam left them desperate. He obeyed that proposed for Satan, all happiness would be banished forever. In human decisions was the fate of the entire universe. He would answer the call of Satan. After intense inner struggle, Adam looked at his companion. It had joined in an eternal promises of delivery. Do not let her just now. Would share with her the results of the rebellion. Then he took the hand of Eva, a fruit, and a hasty gesture, took it to his mouth. Looking stifled the voice of conscience, speaking to him from eternal damnation, Adam threw himself into the arms of his wife, enjoying the high price of their rebellion. Satan, with shouts of triumph, let heaven, flying swiftly along to their innumerable hosts, who looked anxious as the result of risky attempt. Upon learning of human misery, joined in a thunderous party, felt secure. Zion, now theirs by right, there can establish an eternal kingdom, never being harassed by the laws of the eternal. Across the universe, the children of light and bewailed the loss suffered. There had never been such sadness and horror at the future. The voices that lived to sing praises to the Creator uttered lamentations now. The Eternal, who won by infinite pain, bowed low, if in tears before the fall of man, was not, however, surprised. Even before he created the universe, had already foreseen this triumph of rebellion, and in his wisdom and love idealized a rescue plan that would involve a huge sacrifice. Wiping the tears from his tears, he put himself to act powerfully, for his faithful afflicted, preventing them from falling into enemy hands. This mysterious intervention, apparently deposed against justice, the Eternal commanded his most powerful angels surround immediately Garden of Eden. Preventing Satan took possession of Mount Zion, comforted before the Epiphany. The powerful creatures in ready obedience broke the infinite space, circling moment's paradise within which the human being already disturbed by sin lived the blackness of a night that would be long and cruel. Being the authority of the Eternal founded on justice, how could justify his actions before their enemies? Failed to deliver the kingdom to his will to man, and that's by choice, not undergone Satan. While surprises rational creatures considered decisive actions of Yahweh, heard his powerful voice reverberating throughout creation, brought revelation of the great mystery. So wonderful revelation that from that moment for all eternity would occupy the minds of the faithful, being subject to the sweetest meditations. The Eternal first spoke about the terrible condemnation that hung over the man and all creation. Said that by turning off the fountain of life, the man had rushed in so deep chasm that could not be achieved by your arm of justice and power. Humiliated and tortured by the claws of the enemy, not left to man another chance after death, the result of his painful, spontaneous rebellion. Considering the human situation, the hosts of light, they saw possibilities of triumph. They knew that only the man could regain dominion of the enemy, returning it to the Creator, but the human being, eternally enslaved in nature, would be incapable of such a victory. With melodious voice and full of tenderness, Yahweh revealed the plan of redemption, saying, "In fact, the man will reap the fruit of their rebellion, a terrible death. I cannot, with my power, to change his luck. If so act, it would be unfair on my decree. I'll fall, but all the condemnation about a substitute that will arise in human offspring. This man will not bring in their hands the bonds of death, being innocent and undefiled in his nature. As a representative of the human race, face and overcome Satan. After triumph in this battle, proving that love is stronger than selfishness, that truth is stronger than lies, that humility is more powerful than pride, faithful substitute lift their hands to greet the victorious no great achievement, but to take the hands of humanity enslaved the cup of his conviction. Gulps, so submissive, the cup of eternal death. This will open immense sacrifice human beings a chance to be redeemed, returning to the arms of the Creator along with the lost dominion. The hosts, surprises before the revelation of the eternal, investigating the identity that substitute. The Creator, with a smile loving, told them, I'll be the man. My spirit rest upon a virgin, and it will generate a holy son. This boy is divine and human. In his humanity, he will be submissive to the divinity that dwells in him. The redeemed see him as the everlasting Father, the Creator and Redeemer, the King of Kings. His name is Yehoshua, the Eternal Saves.
Amen.